Hi, I'm Rita. My project investigates the potential of temporary use as an alternative tool to tackle the housing crisis. Rising rental prices in our contemporary cities make it harder and harder to find a rentable living and working place at an affordable price. Controversially, the reason why space is becoming increasingly scarce is not due to the lack of space, but the inaccessibility to it. In Brussels, around 50 to 30,000 of the existing housing units are simply empty because of property speculation or the owner's inability to obtain a mortgage to refurbish it. Vacancy accelerates the decay of the building and increases the feeling of insecurity within its neighborhood. Furthermore, there is a higher chance of vandalism and crime, and eventually it makes our city centers deserted. Owning a temporarily unused property is a problem for its owner as well because of the management costs and vacancy tax. On the other hand, empty properties are urban resources that offer temporary platforms for alternative usage, triggering entrepreneurship, creativity, allow experimentation, and is also beneficial for the owner. To figure out the future use and explore the possibilities that underutilized areas offer, city planners facilitate access to these spaces for the citizens living in the neighborhood to empower and enable everyone to participate in the construction of the city. To help citizens managing the negotiation process with the owner, non-profit organizations started to emerge. Such an organization is, for instance, Communa, based in Brussels. Their main goal is to heal the urban scars by temporarily occupying and reconditioning vacant places. This is Lasser, a recently occupied building run by Communa. It contains 4 living units to accommodate their vulnerable people, co-working spaces for artists and non-profit social organizations, and a public venue with a community kitchen and a bar based on solidarity economy. This is the most important place, which gives home to numerous neighborhood activities, public workshops, solidarity and second-hand markets, and artistic and cultural activities. The recovery of an empty place happens as follows. Upon choosing the next possible building that seems appropriate for such an intervention, Communa contacts the owner of the property and tries to convince them about the benefits of temporary occupation to let citizens use the property while it remains empty. They then sign an occupancy contract and Communa co-creates the plans of the occupation together with the neighborhood and the possible future tenants. Afterwards, they refurbish the building to meet the minimal demands with the help of volunteers and the committed citizens of the neighborhood, and occupy and maintain the building for the agreed period, which can be 2 to 5 years. As an organization mainly consisting of young lawyers and social workers, my role and contribution as an architect to their operation was a central question for me from the beginning. Throughout our discussions, it became clear for me that the biggest challenge they face is connected to the notion of constant relocation. Temporariness is not yet fully incorporated into their construction mode. They hardly ever dismantle constructions they made at previous sites. Furthermore, they are also very open to extend their field of operation to vacant plots where the construction has not yet started and is currently on hold for a couple of years due to financial or legal issues. To narrow down my search for such vacant plots, I looked at building sites where the construction is currently on hold. Community Land Trust Brussels has many sites where the land acquisition had happened already, but the construction of the homes have not yet started due to its longer-lasting nature. Therefore, these plots can remain empty for many years, sometimes even for a decade, which is a long enough period for a temporary settlement. Comparing the 3 sites currently owned by CLT Brussels, we can see that they have very similar geometric characteristics. Long, narrow plots perpendicular to the street. with one or two fairly high firewalls on their longer sides, which offer potential for structural support. Since the design project on the first side is the one that is still in its initial phase, I decided to continue working with this one. The empty plots could be used to house people and families in need of accommodation and public venues that could host community events and provide job opportunities. The framework of the project started to take shape as we combine the timeline of communal and CLT. While CLT is working on the feasibility study, Communal gathers possible future tenants, and together they customize the plans. The tenants will acquire construction skills on night classes. The construction starts right after the land acquisition. We can see that the assembling of the temporary building should not take longer than 1 to 3 months, so even in the worst case scenario, there would be a 2-year-long period of tenancy, but preferably 5 years. The occupation comes to an end just before the construction of the permanent building would start. These residents could be families from the waiting list of CLT Brussels, or disadvantaged students, young adults, couples, single mothers, or homeless people who already live in shelter and need a bit of a help to take the next step. The emergency living units don't just wish to offer accommodation, because that alone would not solve the issue connected to precariousness and exclusion. An integrated empowering process is needed where the accommodation is supplemented by social support, professional integration, and skill building. The whole process happens within a very open and supportive community, making sure that till the end of the occupation period, residents will be able to move out the permanent place and integrate back fully in the society. Part of this process is that the residents are involved in the construction of their temporary homes, which could give them confidence and a sense of ownership, but also new skills. Similarly, the aim for the newly formed non-profit neighborhood activities is not necessarily to facilitate the temporariness and travel from site to site, but to find a way to make them feasible and financially independent on the longer term. To fit these conditions, I collected building components that are durable and have dismountable connections in order to be reusable, can be constructed and dismantled within a really short period of time, that the elements should be possible to be purchased from regular building shops. At the same time, it should be low-tech, and the assembly method should have an educative community generator aspect. Lastly, it should enable a rich variety of floor plans. Based on these criteria, I assembled a reference building catalog and evaluated their building components based on how fast it is to assemble them and how low their material cost was. I made different categories for structure, partition, infill, and foundation. Ideal components are situated along this axis. Then I choose the 3 of the fastest and cheapest components and calculated their weight, price, and time to construct them. After comparing the different possible volumes, the third option, the timber box frame, seemed to be the best solution, so I continued working out the assembly method step by step. The construction starts with installing the foundations and the piping, and would be followed by laying the floorboards, lifting the timber frame boxes with a mobile crane, adding the structural partitions, placing the structural boxes, and the cladding with the thermal insulation between its layers. The ceiling structure is carried by a firewall and the box frames on the other side. Finally, the skylights and the roof can be placed. After completion, the residents can move in and personalize the garden and their timber surfaces. The measurements of the construction elements are all synchronized to materials available at building material resellers. The grid is more visible from the top view, showing the rhythm of the structure where one unit consists of two grid elements. The free floor plan is divided only by curtains and shelves. There are different floor plan variations for single people or couples, students, and bigger families occupying 2 units. Shelves can also serve as a built-in furniture in case residents don't possess them. The communal space is situated on the street side with a big kitchen, giving home to the public events and to shared meals. Important element is the temporary fence that serves as a communication surface about communal events and about the future CLT homes. The garden around the homes serves as a semi-public space, but is also a productive garden where special absorbent plants are grown to clean the possible contaminations from the soil. The character of the garden also changes according to its urban context while the homes are traveling to different sites. It would be a playground on the site in Leuven, which is in the proximity of schools, or an outdoor gym on the site in Anderlecht, which is right next to a soccer field. My project investigates the potential of vacancy, redefining the core of help giving throughout self-building, while saving resources with dismountable building techniques. Thank you for listening.